to Christchurch tonight is anything but the ideal world. We also heard him say the Department of Health will be having a press conference at 10 o'clock. We will endeavour to cross to that in just over half an hour's time. So let's recap on the main updates there from the Mayor. Dozens of major rescue operations are now underway across Christchurch. That includes an operation to reach 23 Japanese people who are trapped in an Achievement Institute of Language in the city centre. That is on Peterborough Street. The focus is on rescue efforts tonight, though. At least 100 people remain trapped in buildings right around the city, but 65 people are now confirmed dead. Police have set up an emergency call centre. They're notifying next of kin of the injured and dead, but the central number is for information about missing people. That number, 0800 779 997. 0800 779 997. All emergency services available are on the streets, so there are calls for people to please stay at home tonight. Significant numbers of New Zealand Defence Force personnel have been mobilised to help out. There is a water disruption right across the city of Christchurch. All reservoirs have now been shut off. People are being urged to collect rainwater. It is raining there tonight in Christchurch, and not to waste water, including not flushing toilets. Rivers are being used as emergency wastewater flues. More than half of Christchurch is still without power and will be right through the evening. More than 200 specialist rescue teams will be working throughout the night to find survivors. They're also distributing emergency food and water supplies. Well, I'm joined now live by Amy Kelly from Auckland Airport. Amy, we spoke earlier this evening, a number of disruptions at Auckland Airport. What's the latest there now?
Well, Greg, most of those passengers who were on delayed Christchurch-bound flights have actually left the airport for the evening, given the news that Christchurch Airport isn't due to open again until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I've just spoken to Air New Zealand, and they are planning to operate a special flight tomorrow from Auckland to Christchurch and back to Auckland, and seats on that
and is due back in New Zealand tomorrow night. Just to cover some of the facts about the situation on the ground. Currently 350 military personnel deployed in Christchurch are providing first aid, security and search and rescue. A further 250 are preparing to relieve them. Welfare centres have been set up at Hagley Park, Burnside High School, Addington Raceway. Hagley Park's already at capacity, so if people do need emergency help, emergency shelter, we'd encourage them to go to the other places. Christchurch Hospital is operational. An emergency operations centre has been set up at Princess Margaret Hospital. Other South Island hospitals have been cleared for the capacity to take further casualties from Christchurch. Defence Force personnel are providing medical assistance around the city, and medical staff are being brought in from around New Zealand to assist, including, for instance, nurses with specialist intensive care skills. The Australian government has also offered medical assistance.
Deputy Prime Minister Bill English speaking earlier tonight. Earlier this evening, Mike Hossing spoke with the CEO of Canterbury Lines Company Orion, Roger Sutton, and asked him what state the network was in.
Still off, and we've started bringing on some areas slowly. So we've got the Banks Peninsula, or a lot of the Banks Peninsula has come back on. Parts of the city, especially out further to the west of the city where there's less damage, we've got those areas back on. Our issue has been, it's been very difficult getting around the city to go and inspect things like substations and transformers before we actually reconnect them. We don't want to be turning power back onto areas where we know there's a lot of damage, because we turn it back on when it's damaged, we're going to blow things up and perhaps turn a repair that might take us 4 or 6 hours into days or weeks of repair. So we're being cautious at this stage.
Do you know how badly damaged your infrastructure is? I mean, if you could get through the roads and have a look at it, do you have any idea of that or not?
We've got more damage than we had compared to September the 4th. But the damage we've got in our network, from what we've seen so far, isn't actually too bad. We spent a lot of time on earthquake strengthening our really big key assets, and so far it doesn't look like we've got any damage to those assets that's going to cause us big delays. One or two places, some of those big substations have slumped and we aren't going to be able to use them for a time, but we've got backup substations around them that we're going to be able to use to get the power back onto those areas.
What sort of time frame before everything's switched back on, do you know?
Well, last time we got 90% of the city back on within 24 hours. Maybe it won't be quite as fast as that this time, but I think we're looking for most customers, we're going to get them back on within a couple of days, and the worst customers, I don't think it's going to be much more than a week or 2 weeks. But it's still very, very early, mate. There's whole areas of our network we just haven't been able to get to yet because of bridges down and those sorts of things.
Have you got the staff to help? I mean, you've got that mix of having to do the job, because you've got people, looking after families and homes and stuff. I mean, how's that going to work for you?
Yeah, I mean, on the September the 4th event, people just left their families and came to work because they knew they were safe because they'd been at home in bed. It was a little bit different that about half the staff wanted to go home and check on their families before sort of getting into the swing of things. But overall, there's a full complement of people over in our building working at the moment, going through the different error screens we've got in our computers, dispatching staff to do inspections. So there's a big team of people working out there at the moment. A lot of our contracting staff, the doing staff, we see we're not going to get really big repair jobs done tonight. We've sent a lot of them home to spend their nights with have the evening with their families, and come in at first flight tomorrow morning. And then we'll have some real jobs, some gutsy jobs we know they need to do to get the power back on.
Carry on.
I was going to say it's very frustrating because we know that, if you like, the joy of getting the power back on, what it brings to people. But we have to be cautious. If we put it back on quickly and we cause damage to our equipment or to their houses by bringing it back on, then we're not going to be thanked by anybody.
Do people understand that? Are they getting to you? Can they get to you to ask questions? And when they do they understand that or not?
I think people do understand. I mean, our call centre's operating at the moment, and we're not actually overwhelmed with calls. But there's not much point ringing us at the moment if your power's off. We actually don't want you to ring us. If you've got, threats to life, if there are live power lines or power lines down outside your house, yes, we want to know about that. Some areas of the city, I should make it clear, things like the CBD are going to take longer to restore power to them. We don't want to be putting power back onto the CBD, power back onto damaged buildings and maybe gas leaks, because then we're going to have a real problem. So the CBD is going to take longer than other parts of the city.
It seems a sad question to ask, but have you learnt stuff out of September that you're having to put into place now?
We'd always knew that a big earthquake was our biggest risk, even long before September the 4th. So we spent a lot of time and energy making our assets stronger so they could withstand such an event. And September 4th, very little of our really important assets failed. We really had power poles sinking into the ground and those sorts of things. The lesson we've always had, whether it's an earthquake or a snowstorm, is don't rush in, stand back, try and get a picture before you start repairing things, so you make sure you put your efforts into repairing the most important things first. All right.
So just to recap, we're talking about the downtown area is going to take a little bit longer. Some of you guys are going to get into the outlying areas in the next 24 hours, but in the next 36 hours, the bulk of the city should be back on.
From what we can see at the moment, Mike, and tonight we should get more stuff back on. So if you go to bed tonight, make sure you turn the lights off in the bedroom, otherwise we may wake you up.
That was Roger Sutton, CEO of Canterbury Lines Company Orion. We return now, I hope, to Christchurch and Simon Dello. Simon.
Good afternoon. Good evening, Greg. I'm with Police Commissioner Howard Broad and Chief Superintendent Dave Cliff. Gentlemen, your word, what would you like to tell people?
Very traumatic event for Christchurch, and the police are here performing our work, doing our job, backed up by police right across the country, and very sad day.
What would you like to say to the people of Christchurch? What message would you want to get across to them right now?
We're here to support you. It's not just the Christchurch Police, led by Superintendent Dave Cliff, the whole country. I've had phone calls from police commissioners in Australia offering assistance. We realise that this is going to be an operation that, and the recovery from this event today, coming on the back of the event of last year, is going to take a long time, and we're here for the long haul.
Chief Superintendent, from a local perspective.
Look, what we've suffered is a major disaster today. There are still people trapped in buildings. We've got urban search and rescue teams, police officers, ambulance officers working to get those people free. There are locations where we know people are trapped, and we're working as hard as we can to get them freed. We've got several hundred staff working at the moment who are actively working around public safety. We want people to stay out of the central city. There is still a significant risk of the aftershocks causing debris to fall off buildings. We don't want people to get hurt, so please stay out of the central city is a really important message. The other one is the Commissioner has arranged several hundred staff to come in and support us. They're on their way at the moment, either driving or flying. They'll be here at around midnight, so we'll have an additional around 200 officers as well as a similar number of firefighters in urban search and rescue. So we'll be working through the night to get anyone who's trapped in the debris free as soon as humanly possible. Look, what people in Canterbury have demonstrated, they're extraordinarily resilient. We know people have got emergency kits, so we're asking for people to stay at home unless you really need to go out. Of course, check on your neighbours, but try and stay home. We want people off the roads if they don't really need to be.
What would you like to say to people across the country, though, who are concerned about relatives and friends and family here?
Okay, what we're doing at the moment, we will very soon be able to announce a number where people can phone to log the fact that people are missing. Otherwise, people can phone our comm centre, so don't hesitate if you've got a real concern to phone the comm centre, but we will have an 0800 number available very shortly. If people check the police website, which is www.police.govt.nz, that number will be up as soon as we can have it available. People will be able to ring that number, tell us who's missing, provide details so we can marry that up with the people who we know may be trapped.
The Mayor was able to give us a number just a few minutes ago. That number's not operational just yet?
That's a lifeline number, and that's offering support to people, but this will be a number to specifically log missing people, which is something we're acutely aware. There'll be people out there who are concerned about those who haven't come home, who are probably trapped, could potentially be, and understandably they'll be really worried about that, so we want to be able to provide a contact for those individuals.
Are all your staff accounted for?
All but one of our staff members is accounted for. We've got a large number of staff, of course, as everyone else does, with houses that are significantly damaged. There is damage to the infrastructure in terms of the sewerage, bridges, roads. That's why we're really encouraging people, particularly at night, to stay off the roads unless you really need to be out. We don't want more injury occurring, which is going to put even more pressure on the emergency services.
Do you have an idea at this stage about the potential number of missing?
Look, at the moment we know that there's over 100 people missing around the city. As I said, I'll give you an absolute assurance we're doing everything humanly possible at those sites around the city to try and find people who may be trapped. We are aware of this, there are people trapped in those sites. Some individuals have been able to send us text messages, others have, have called out for help, so we know people are in those locations. We're doing everything possible to free them.
How many people have actually been able to be rescued from the...
Look, at the moment, as you'll appreciate, this is very much in the early stages of a dramatic incident. The numbers we're not sure of, and look, they won't be available for some time.
But this is dozens, isn't it? I mean, just going to the various sites, we've heard people say, I've seen 15 people come out, I've seen a dozen people come out. So dozens of people, I'm assuming, have been pulled from these buildings already.
Yeah, there's certainly well over 50-odd people who we believe to be trapped. You've got to appreciate this happened at 10 to 1 in the afternoon. It's a lunch hour. It's a busy working day for people. People were in those buildings. So absolutely, there are people trapped, undoubtedly, and we're working, as I said, in every way possible to get those people freed.
Have there been dozens pulled out already as well?
Look, we're aware of that. The hospitals are certainly coping. St John's Ambulance have set up a centre and they're dealing with people there. So the triaging systems are all working. Christchurch Hospital are keeping patients in. So far, they're not sending them away from Christchurch in their ambulances, so that's a great indicator that they're being treated well. But look, I just re-emphasise, the emergency services have got things planned. This is a major disaster. Just some other messages we really want to pass on to people. We've had some rock falls around the Summit Road. Please stay off those roads up around the Summit area. Ferrymead Bridge is closed. The central city is closed around the 4 avenues. We want people to stay out of there. Please don't give us any extra work. The other thing is we're sending staff through there tonight, essentially checking, calling out to people. So when it gets quiet, we'll be able to hear if people can tap and doing those sort of things. So we really need, people's help with that. Thank you.
Hospitals still on generator?
I don't know. I know we are. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
And it probably is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, how
is Simon Dallow in Christchurch? He was talking to Chief Superintendent Dave Cliff and outgoing Police Commissioner Howard Broad. Do stay with us on this extended One News special about this afternoon's devastating earthquake in Christchurch. We're on air until 11 and you can join us again for breakfast from 6 tomorrow morning. Well, some evacuation centres are full up tonight. Residents forced to find other shelter around the city. As Kim Vanell reports, the magnitude of the quake is only just starting to sink in.
Lining up for what is becoming a precious resource.